Everyone, in this video, I just want to go through some of the end of semester housekeeping that we need to take care of this week as we enter our final week. So some things that we have to do this week are, we have our guest speaker, Teresa Skinner, is going to come talk to us on Tuesday, April 28th at 12:30 in Zoom. She's going to talk to us about the USD Teacher Residency Program. She's one of our residency instructors, and she does a really good job of each semester, which I have her come to class every semester. I teach this class and just talk to students about what to expect when you get to your residency. So, all of you are going there. You will all get there at some point. Some will be this fall, some will be in the spring, and then some will be a year from this fall. But it's coming, and it's best if you know a little bit about what to expect before you get there. Because I know a number of students, it seems like every year, some students don't realize that, you know what, in addition to all day, every day student teaching for a year, you're taking like 3 to 5 full-time classes, right? And that catches some students off guard. So it's good to go over some of these things ahead of time. That way you have plenty of time to prepare, okay? Now, this is going to be a mix of her talking to you about what to expect, but then also a chance for you to ask questions. So I would absolutely encourage you to bring questions. Write a couple down that, you know, as things you're unsure about or you wondered about, whatever it might be. Between either her or myself, we could go ahead and answer those questions for you. Okay, now this will be in Zoom, and I have the link for the Zoom meeting in D2L, as well as the password that we're going to use. Is right there when you go to click on the link. The password is part of the title, so you can go ahead and type that. It is case sensitive, so make sure you keep make sure you have the couple capital letters capitalized. Okay. This week, I also want you to read real quick. It's an assessment reading, really assessment in units. There's some questions I had gotten from a couple students about how assessment works in units. So I went ahead and copy and pasted actually part of an email I sent to one of the students in the class just about assessment. And I thought if one person has it, probably other people have it. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that here in one of these next slides. Okay, so stay tuned on that for the moment. We have our research project that's due on Friday, May 1st. So make sure you have that done. And then we have our final exam that's going to be due at our normal final exam time. I think we were scheduled, I know we were scheduled for May 4th at 8 to 10 p.m. was our normal final exam time. So we are just going to go with May 4th at 10 p.m. as the cutoff for getting your final exams done. It will be in D2L, like a quiz like what we did for exam 1, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. And then really the last thing on the list is the course evals. If you haven't had a chance to do that, yeah, I would appreciate it if you would take, just a couple minutes to go ahead and go through that survey real quick. It's actually pretty impactful for me. I'm an assistant professor and I am on the tenure track, and I actually go up for tenure in the fall. This is my 5th year, so you go up in the start of your 6th year. So I will be going up for tenure and promotion in the fall, and I actually will include all your ratings and your feedback, anything that you give me. And what I just tell students when you're doing these course evals for any professor is that you're kind, you're fair, but then you're also honest, those kind of things. We want to know all the good, all the bad, whatever it might be, okay? So let's talk a little bit about unit assessment, okay? So when we do any kind of planning, we always set a learning objective or a unit goal, some kind of target that we're trying to achieve, right? And then we assess along the way through formative assessments, and then at the end using a summative assessment, okay? So in a lesson plan, this might look like exit ticket in a lesson. Maybe you're gonna do something in Google Forms, get kind of a feel for where they are as they're leaving the classroom that day. Okay, are they making progress towards my learning objective? Okay, and that will inform you, right? And that's why you have them, that way you can adjust your instruction. Now, at the end of that lesson, you might have your students writing a persuasive essay on something, okay? And that's how you're gonna know if, you know what, did they meet my learning objective? And that's how you know, right? We've talked about that. We've gone over assessment before in class, so that's nothing new. Okay, now with unit assessment and unit planning, it's really the same basic process, but it's a little bit different and can kind of get a bit confusing, okay? Now in a unit plan, we also have a summative unit assessment, right? And those assessments can look very much like what you would do in a normal lesson, right? You could have them write an essay, you could have them do a video project, you could have them make a poster, it could be any number of things. It can be any kind of alternative assessment, which are those things that you grade with a rubric. It could be a traditional assessment, so like a test or a quiz, something like that, probably a test is what you call it. So you have lots of options, right? The type of thing, the type of way that they demonstrate their understanding, that really hasn't changed, right? You just have a different scope, a different focus, because with a unit, you're assessing their ability to do whatever that unit goal is that you've set, right? Just like you have a learning objective and you assess that through a summative assessment, in a unit, you have a unit goal and you assess that through the unit summative assessment. Now, where it gets really, really confusing for a lot of people is the formative unit assessments, okay? So in a unit plan, you can have formative assessments, and those formative assessments are actually the lesson plan's summative assessments, okay? So if your students in one of your lessons in your unit wrote a persuasive essay, you could use that assessment as a formative assessment for your unit, okay? You don't have to do anything different. You just look at it and you say, you know what, this is where the students were. Here's where my learning target is for the unit. Here's what my unit goal is, where they need to be at the end of my unit. And here's where they are maybe like the second lesson. Well, have they made progress? Are they making enough progress, right? It informs you on the overall student progress for the entire unit. Okay, so you might be in the middle of week 1 of a 3-week unit, but it's telling you, you know what, we're making a little bit of progress here, but you know what, I need to make a few changes in this next lesson because you know what, we didn't quite get it figured out in the first one, or whatever it might be. Okay, so those formative assessments that you do in a unit are really just the same thing as your lesson plan summative assessments. It's just used in a different way, and that's because we're assessing something different, okay? Because in a lesson, we're assessing those learning objectives, right? Those things that we complete in the kind of the 1 to 3 days, right? At the end of this lesson, students will be able to, and then what will they be able to, right? We're assessing whether or not they can do that. In a unit, we're looking at a much longer period of time, something over, you know, up to 3-4 weeks sometimes, okay? So it's just, the scope is a little bit different, okay? And that could be confusing. I kind of go into a little bit of detail in what I've posted in D2L. So go ahead and take a peek at that. If you have any questions, just go ahead and email me. I'm happy to hop on Zoom with you sometime and just talk about it if we can't figure it out over email, okay? All right. Let's talk about the final exam real quick. Okay, so the final exam, like I mentioned, is due on May 4th at 10 p.m. It is worth 50 points because remember we had a second exam that I dropped, so we moved some of those points over into the final exam. That way we can account for everything, and the test will be very much like what we did for the first exam. It's going to be true, false, multiple choice questions. Each question will be worth 1 point. The questions are going to be randomized. They are drawn from a question pool with many, many more questions than you will have on the test. So you'll have 50 questions on the test. I have a question pool with just a ton of questions, okay? So you won't all get the same questions, but it'll all be on the same topics, okay? And then the order of the test is shuffled a little bit. That way the questions are a little bit out of order and just makes it a little bit easier for everyone that way, okay? Now, the stuff that you need to study. So we have 20 questions on instructional planning and assessment, so a good chunk there, because that's what we've spent a lot of time on this semester. Really, since exam 1 has been a ton on instructional planning and assessment. That's where we've spent probably the bulk of our time. And that's really what this class is focused on as well, okay? We have 10 questions on inquiry-based learning and unit planning. That's really what the focus has been over the last week and a half or so, and it's going to be a little bit more this week, so about 2.5 weeks of content there. And again, these are all over the readings that we do in the course, as well as anything from the presentations that I've done. Okay, so I'll have all the PowerPoints up there for you. You have the videos since, you know, we've gone online because of the pandemic. Plus all the stuff out of the books, any online readings, all those things is all fair game for the exam. So make sure you're looking through all those things as you study. Okay, and then we also have 20 questions on exam 1 content, which is going to be anything from Robinson and Tomlinson. Okay, those are the two books we had at the beginning of the semester. We're just kind of coming back around, getting back at some of that content. Okay, and with that, that is really all we have. I'm going to go ahead and say bye now. I'm going to see you, I guess, on Tuesday, but in case we don't have time or I forget something like that, I thought I'd go ahead and say bye now. I'll probably see you around at some point because I know a lot of you still have quite a bit of classes you have to take before you get to your residency. So I will probably see you somewhere in the hallways or something like that, so feel free to say hi, those kind of things. And then I'll probably also see you during residency because I teach one of the classes in the residency, so I'll probably see you then as well. It's been definitely an interesting semester. I think we had a pretty good semester, all things considered. It was great having everyone face-to-face, and it's been, you know, great having you online as well. It's just definitely been different than what I think any of us expected, but I think there's definitely been some positives. We got through all the content. Everyone's been doing really, really well. You really put forth a really great effort this semester, so I think you all should be proud of the efforts that you had, especially given all the things that are going on in the world. Okay, so with that, I'll let you go, and I will see you all on Tuesday.